This is the Valley of Tears from MMP Games. It's part of the Battalion Combat series. First thing I want to say is I managed to pick up a copy of this for a very reasonable price on Board Game Geek. It's got a slightly damaged box, but the contents in perfect condition. I was absolutely amazed to pick up such a rare game at such a reasonable price. Right, if we look at what's happened in the Sinai, I haven't done the Golan front because you're supposed to do one front first and then the second one. And there's been such a lot of activity on the Sinai that I thought I'd do a separate video for it. In terms of the Egyptian progress, they're across the canal in force all along its length. There's only one area where they're not really in any position, and that's in the gap between the second and third Egyptian armies. In terms of what happened this turn, I had to go backtrack and a couple of Egyptian, in fact 2 Egyptian units did a move, a secondary action which they missed out on because of me messing up. Basically, second actions you throw against this die number here on the back of the counter, the HQ counter, and if you get equal to or greater to that, that means you can get a secondary action, and you're supposed to add 1 if your division's in a fresh state. Fresh is the lowest level of fatigue that's available. As you do more and more operations, you start throwing on fatigue tables, and the fatigue level builds up in your unit and makes it more and more difficult to actually do anything. Your snafu roll gets worse, limiting the activations. In terms of what's happened here, everybody apart from 1 unit got a full activation still. There is Israeli interdiction taking place along this front, but it didn't really have enough effect to stop the Egyptians from achieving decent activations. Main reason for that is Egypt have got a +1 scenario activation on the second turn in the Sinai. Now, if we look at the front, in terms of the area probably where there's been the least activity is here, the Portside Command. They've just been mopping up Israeli positions in the bar left line. They haven't really achieved a great deal there. Now this area here is where the Israelis have done the most damage. They had a unit, the 275th Territorial, that got a double activation, and there was an Egyptian tank brigade which was pretty heavily exposed, and it just went through it like a knife through butter. Jumped its HQ, which forced it to retreat and put it in a coordination counter on it, which meant it disrupted it. So that has not been too good for the Egyptians, but they've got a lot of units in that area, and this 275th isn't a particularly strong Israeli unit, but it does show what the Israelis can do if they get the advantage over you. Okay, thing is, the Israeli army, it may be smaller, but it's a lot better. It's got loads and loads of factors that make it better, which I'll cover in a later video. The one thing it hasn't got is infantry. There's nowhere near enough infantry, and you need infantry, these units, with support, with actual attack capability, with the arrow here. There's a term for this which slips my mind at the moment. Anyway, they haven't got enough infantry basically for an army of this size. In the central area here, the Egyptians pretty much are moving forward. They've knocked out the bar left line's positions, and they've pushed forward. You see you're getting close to this SAM belt line here. If you go beyond that SAM belt line, all Egyptian forces are at -1 activity rating. The activity rating is the small number in the middle between the two red numbers there. It's like 3. Now that's effectively a morale rating, or a troop quality rating. That's really important for fighting. A -1 penalty is not to be sneered at when you're doing that, because the Arab armies generally have 2 or 3 as their activity rating, whereas the Israelis are pretty much 4s. And I think there's an occasional 5 dotted around there, which is elite forces on the Israeli side. Over this area, again, they've made good progress, knocked out the bar left positions and advanced forward against Israeli forces. Over here, where the Third Army is, again, they're crossing force. There's not much opposition down here. Things in the south aren't looking very good for the Israelis. Commando units coming in have caused a right nuisance, blocking the main supply line for the this particular unit here, the 252nd, and that's had to route its supplies down a track. That's not going to do very good. That's going to be a problem. The good thing about those commando units is they can't move once they're placed. Helicopter dropped, and they can't. They're not really in a position to do any move. They're just blocking that important crossroads there. What I have done with this is I've stopped using the alternate activation, and I've moved over to a chit draw. There's about 3, well, I think there are 3 options for actually handling how your formations activate. The standard one is you alternate. That would effectively leave the Egyptians. There's only, 3 Israeli formations here? Is there 4? Well, there's actually 5 Israeli formations. There's a lot more Egyptian. And if you alternate, the Egyptians are going to finish off with about 3 activations in a row where the Israelis can't respond. So I've done it pulling out of a cup, because there's some counters that come with the game. These things here, these little chits, and you can just draw them out of a cup to decide who activates by front. Certain things, we've got little markers. If you see a green marker, it's my way of saying you've completed all your activations. You get turned over when you activate, and the green marker goes on to say you've done everything. It's just my way of making sure that everything has been done. You see yellow cubes, they're ghosted combat trains. That means the combat train's been forced to move or moved to maintain optimal distance with its HQ. So all in all, it's looking pretty good for the Egyptians in terms of achieving their objectives. They've actually got a couple of objectives. They've achieved these red discs here, mark objectives. They're already in holding, so they've got 4 already. And they should get most of the others tomorrow. In terms of the Israelis, things aren't brilliant, mainly because they haven't got a lot of units in place here, and they're heavily outnumbered. Well, that's really all I can say for Sinai. I don't think there's anything else going on that's worth noting. That's it. We're on to the Golan front now for the second day.